I graduated from Black Room College in May of 1973. And in June of 1973, I was working for the IRS. I was a tax auditor in Decatur. And I resided there for 2 years. And I really wanted to be an FBI agent, but I couldn't pass the eyesight test. And J. Edgar was pretty stiff on that. I did take a civil service test for Secret Service agent or IRS special agent. They happen to be the same classification in the federal system. And when I took it, it was interesting. And so in July or August of '73, I got some calls from the Civil Service Commission wanting to know if I wanted to interview for a couple of these jobs. And one of them was a special agent with the IRS. Those are their criminal investigators. And I said, well, you know, I've already got a job with the IRS. I just completed some training. Maybe not, I don't know. And the guy said, well, I got to know yes or no. I said, well, no. Well, then I got another call from, I think it was St. Louis, kind of the same thing. And they were looking for a Secret Service agent. And I said, nah, I guess not. Well, you get 2 chances at that time, and so I was out. I made a mistake there. I should have taken one of those jobs. And here's a little side kid. I have a real good friend in Carlinville who was a Secret Service agent. He's retired now. Our sons were classmates. And he spent 2 years in the White House with the Clintons. And after he got done with that, he came back to Springfield, and he was the Secret Service agent in charge in Springfield, and did that for about 9 years and retired. I do his tax return now. His pension is a hell of a lot more than what I'm getting. But he went through a lot of things. In 1975, after being with the IRS for a couple of years, the IRS decided to change a little bit, and they established the Taxpayer Service Division. Taxpayer Service had been a branch of the Collection Division. And so they spun us out, and I got the job of being the group manager of the Taxpayer Service people in all the offices in the Springfield District, which at that time was everything south of I-80. I had 18 employees. They were all women, most of them old enough to be my mother, and they all thought I was the greatest thing since sliced bread. We had a good time. We did a lot of good things. But one thing that I did, and this was in 1975, shortly after I got the job, I was invited to go to the Holiday Inn in Decatur, where the Farm Tax School was being held. And at that time, Lee Farrell was a revenue agent in Danville, and he did a lot of these things. And in the Holiday Inn there, they had 2 rooms across the hall from one another. And I went into the one. They wanted me to speak a little bit and talk a little bit about the taxpayer service that was being enhanced. And he was sitting in a chair with flip charts and using flip charts at that time. And there was a manual about this thick that had been developed here in the university. And Faye Sims was one of the men in the ag part. And so that's how I got started. I went around and did a couple of different places. After a couple of years in taxpayer service, I opted to go back to the audit division, and I was a revenue agent. During that time, I had gone to school, passed the CPA exam, and at the end of 1979, I decided to leave the IRS and go into practice for myself in Carlinville, my hometown. So I've been there for a long time. I went to the tax school in 80 and 81 in Litchfield. And along the way, I got connected with Al Bach and knew him well. And the IRS continued to choose revenue agents to be presenters at the farm tax school. And Al called me in 1982 early and said, they've screwed all of this up. They're sending me people that I don't want. They're not any good at what they, presenting. And he said, I want you and John Burge, who was a same situation as me, had been a revenue agent up in the northwestern part of the state. We're going to take you two guys and you're going to be instructors. So we did, and we had other revenue agents along the way. And along the way, I got teamed up with Lanny Lobdell, who was a tax auditor and later a revenue agent in Bloomington. And I remember being in one of the first schools in 1982 in Quincy. And we were in the New Holiday Inn there, and we were sitting looking at the audience before we were getting started. And I said to Lanny, I said, have you seen the people in the first two rows? They must be 80 years old. And 10 years later, they were all still sitting there. And, it got to be, kind of a funny thing. But Lanny was my long-term partner. Along the way, we decided to have 3 instructors. And so one August meeting that we had over in the Ag Library, they brought in some people, some other IRS people and others, that we wanted to choose 3. At that time we had 3 teams to make the teams 3 each. And Lanny was saying to me, we want this guy over here, this guy over here. And he was pointing to Jerry Broom, who was a revenue agent in Peoria at the time. And I said, I don't know him well, but I'll take it on your, word that he's a good guy. Lonnie and I, and the university was always good about this, some kind of a piece of clothing we got every year. And one year we got a kind of a coach's jacket. It was real shiny, And Lanny had his taken to somebody who embroidered on it, A-Team. And he said, give me your jacket, because I'm gonna take this to the guy and he's gonna put that on there. So we were the A-Team. Now the other 2 teams didn't really like that. But we rubbed it in as much as we could. And so Jerry became a member of the A-Team. And along the way we've been through a lot of things. Lanny retired from the IRS. And if you knew Lanny, he scripted his material. I mean, he scripted it. You wouldn't know that, but he wrote it and read it, but you couldn't tell that he was reading it. And if I was up and he was in the back of the room, he was erasing things, putting in new words, all in pencil. The last school, we're done with it, we're not going to use this anymore. He's still in the back of the room erasing things. So, and then he decided that he wasn't going to teach anymore, and that's when we picked up Bob Ray to be the 3rd member of the A-Team. And unfortunately, my good friend Lanny was killed in an automobile accident in Bloomington when he was out on a jog that morning. And so I lost a good friend there. But along the way, I need to go back a minute. Due to Al Bach's sudden demise, Terry Coble had joined in the office, and she became the director after Al. Phil Harris had been the co-editor of what was then still called the Farm Income Tax School. And the book was used all across the country. And when Al died, Phil Harris decided that he was going to move everything to Wisconsin, where he was from. And we didn't like that. And I remember Chris Berg and I and Terry had dinner in the Holiday Inn in Decatur. And Terry was trying to say, should we do this? Should we join them? Or should we try to go out on our own? And we decided to go out on our own. And I think we had maybe 20 or maybe 22 different schools that had used the book. And I think we ended up with 5 or 6 in the first year. And a couple of years later, Phil Harris died, and that kind of went by the wayside. So I'm going to tell you that still, the University of Illinois Tax School is the best in the country. So it is, and we work hard at it. And I'm a little bit tired. I had hoped to have my practice sold sometime this year. That hasn't worked out, so I'm going to have to work another year. But the other thing that comes along is my wife has cancer.
Oh, no.
And so I got to spend some time with her. But I want you to know that it's been my enjoyment to be with all of you, any of you, over the years. And I really cherish the relationships that I have with a lot of you. And so I hope to see you again, not from up here. I plan on working a little bit with the school and doing some of the work behind the scenes. But I want you to know that this is still the best program